everyone has a story and it deserves to be heard. And he's like, this library should be filled with books of people's stories because it deserves to be heard.
As humans, deep down, we all want to know that we matter and that we are loved. Today's guest has always made everyone within his reach feel valued. He makes the invisible feel seen, and he is passionate about making sure every voice is heard. He has focused his career on working with our youth, their families, and the community, and the work he does is making a significant impact on the next generation of leaders. Jamal, I don't even know if you've ever truly processed the profound ripple effect you continue to have on generations to come through the work you do, but also simply in just who you are. Please welcome my dear friend, Jamal Givens. Hey, Jamal. Oh my goodness, it's so good to see you.
Good seeing you also. Been a while. Yes, indeedy.
Many years, I think. I don't even actually know the last time we actually saw each other. Do you?
Yeah, I don't remember. I know we went out to, I think, Odd Pizza or something like that and met up. I think that was the last time. Yeah, we just caught up real quick. So yeah, it's been a while, but we definitely touch base once in a blue moon on the text message and all that good stuff. So thank goodness for that.
Exactly. Well, and you and I have a unique background. Our history together is long.
Yeah. I don't know if there's enough time for this podcast to do all of that.
Right?
So we'll
It'll be the entire thing. But for our listeners, just so you know, so Jamal and I grew up together in Saudi Arabia. Actually, that might be the first time some of the people I know even know that that's where I grew up. But so wait, when did we meet? What grade do you think you were in when you moved?
Oh man. Oh, I got there when I was in third grade. So fourth grade. So yeah.
Third or fourth grade.
Yes.
But I feel like maybe we didn't know each other or didn't hang out until junior high, maybe.
Yeah, kind of like the beginning, I think, of June. So sixth grade, sixth grade, I think, around. We knew each other. You were in sports, but then we got closer as we began to graduate. And then, then towards the end of graduation, eighth grade, spent a lot of time. And then returning students, we were like, two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
High school.
You would come over. You were always coming over to my house to ask for rice.
Yes.
Gummy rice? Yes. Yeah. Always have rice.
Your mom always had it ready for me. Always. I mean, it was always there, but she was always like, yep, Jamal, you have the rice or whatever. And your mom would feed me. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. So we go a long way. What I want to say before we get started is what I loved about you growing up, and you've never changed in this much. This has just always been who you are. You are a people magnet. People love to be around you, like of all ages, all demographics, all like friend groups. You are the common denominator. You're like the glue for everybody. And I was trying to think about exactly what it is about you that makes you so like just everybody loves to be around you. And you are always positive. You always listen. You're so non-judgmental in a way that makes people feel like I want to be around him. And so thank you for being that guy all these years.
Appreciate that.
It's an honor to have you as a friend for all these years.
Man. Yeah, definitely love. Nothing but love for you also. Love. How you do that? Out of the
I love it. So let's just start with, tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, your family. Catch us up.
Oh, yeah. So what I was going to say earlier was that's really interesting that you were talking about just my personality and how things have seemed to stay consistent. Because what's so interesting is I ended up picking up this nickname in my college years when I first started out, and they started calling me Mr. President.
That's appropriate.
Right. And the reason being was just because I got along with so many different people, or tried to get along with people. And I was kind of like Switzerland for the most part, though, where I tried not to get into too much, too many issues or anything like that, just in drama, and always tried to find peace and keep people happy and be a good listener. And so that name continues with me even still today as I went through college at the University of Arizona. Even now today, people call me the Prez. That's my nickname. So you'll see stuff. You'll see stuff as Prez or El Presidente. When
I would definitely vote for you. Oh my goodness.
So when I go to karaoke, it's Prez. What's up, Prez? So
I love it.
Definitely. So yeah, I mean, so what I do, I have a nonprofit organization known as LPKNC, which is Liberty Partnership Keno Neighborhoods Council. And I'm the president and CEO of that nonprofit organization. And we focus on prevention of substance use and misuse and promoting mental health and wellness. And it's something that I love doing. We work primarily with youth and families. And then because we work with those two groups, we also work with community and helping to look at those particular issues and how they can, what can they do to make sure that that's mitigated, I should say, or not overdone.
Yeah. So, and how did you get into it? What led you to that path?
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of times you never think about your own history. And so, it started out for me, I've always worked with youth. And it started out when I was in Philadelphia. and I was a big brother of Big Brother Sisters of America, and I just loved working with the young people. And I had a little brother. This is when I was at Temple University in Philadelphia. I had a little brother in the projects, and it was amazing just to see the reaction I got when I went to go pick him up and to have him participate in different activities that the Big Brothers and Sisters of America had. What was more interesting to me was the reaction of the other youth in the community when I used to go pick him up. And they'd be like, "Oh my God, oh so cool! Are you go to Temple? You're like, do you play sports? What sport do you play? What sport do you play?" And I'm like, "No, I don't play any sports." And they were like, "Oh, really? You don't play any sports?" And I'm like, "No, I don't play any sports. I'm there for academics." And they were like, you can just see their wheels turning, kind of like, "What? You don't play football? Wait, you don't run track? You don't?" I'm like, "Nah, nah." So I think I don't know. That might have been their first encounter with a black male who wasn't at college for that was in college for something other than just sports, and so just interacting with him and seeing that reaction, and always just having loved being youthful myself, made me just think. Because I remember this is really interesting. I was sitting in the back of my class at Temple University, and it was a accounting 101. And I was sitting in the back of the class, and I was just sitting there thinking, like, we were crunching numbers, right, and doing debit and credit columns and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I can't do this my whole life. Like, sitting in an office just doing this. So I got up, left, went to the advisor's office and said, "I got to change my major. This isn't going to work for me." And so we started talking about some different things that we could do. And I told them how I love the Big Brother Sisters of America. And they were like, "Well, you might be interested in sociology or, and I was like, yeah, because they were thinking about at first child and family type stuff. And I was like, I don't know about that, but I love people, as you said. So sociology just seemed to hit better. So that's what I got my degree in, and minor in criminal justice, and being able to work with at-risk youth, or what I like to call at hope youth that have hope. They all
I
have
love that.
all have the potential for that. And so that's where it kind of started. And then transferred from Temple University to the University of Arizona, U of A, where I graduated. But when I got here to Tucson, Arizona at the U of A, I started working with other youth in high schools, and worked with a lot of youth of color, and helping them be in the pipeline from high school to college, and really just love that and the extracurricular activities we do. So yeah, that's how I got started. Just a love for youth, and wanting to stay young-ish. I figured hanging out with them would be the best bet, and being able to stay in touch with the music and the trends and all that. So that's what I try to do today still. So
awesome. Well, I mean, I don't know if you would have defined this for yourself, but you realize you inspire the next generation. Like, you are showing people a picture that they never saw for themselves. Like at Temple, the idea of not being an athlete, just had never seen it before. So now they have a new picture in their mind. So, and the same, right, at U of A, it's that now you're giving them a picture that they may or may not have had before they met you.
That's true. No, it's very true. Yeah. A lot of people of color, especially black men, are not seen in certain spaces, and being able to introduce that to them. And it was the same thing. It's been interesting. I think through my life, I've been that individual black male who has had what would you say, had the blessing of being able to show some people something different, because I went to a boarding school that was predominantly white. I think I was one of 6 black students at that school, and had to tear down a lot of stereotypes about black men, due to TV, music, and just stereotypes. And so, yeah, I never thought about that until you're just saying that now, like being able to show people something different. I was like, wait a minute, that's kind of been my life, right? I mean, even when you and I were growing up, I mean, I think it was me, Norman, Jerry. I think that was it, really.
Like 5 of you, maybe.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. But I never saw you as any different in my mind.
Yeah. No, we were buddies, man.
People.
We were tight. We just got along because just I think of our mindset and wanting to do it a little bit different. And even though we loved our peers, you and I were just like, we're going to do it a little different. And we'll go hang out for a little bit. But then, Claire and I would just go do our own thing. And then I go get some rice.
Get some rice.
Then I do karaoke with her family. And
oh my gosh. You did do karaoke with my family. Oh my goodness.
They still love those nights.
My parents still have that original karaoke machine, I think.
I believe it. The
attached cord and everything. Oh my gosh.
Good times, man. Good
Wait,
times.
so I think I saw this on your Facebook page, but you still go to karaoke like all the time.
All the time. All the time. It's my outlet. It's my way of being. It's my way to still get some mic time, and then also make people feel good. I love the reaction that I get from people when I sing songs, and makes them smile or dance or even feel maybe sometimes like a little sad. Depending upon the songs that I sing. But yeah, my genre of music is a little bit crazy, from country rock. I mean, the way that we grew up.
Yeah.
So I do a little bit
Yeah.
of everything. But yeah,
Okay.
it still happens. It still happens.
Yeah, I love that. So can we dive into your work a little bit, because this podcast is about amplifying growth, leadership, and impact, and really your entire life has been about impacting specifically youth, right, and communities. What does that look like? Are there issues that come up that are, I don't want to say common, but that you see over and over again?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that we're talking to a community and even think about of our nation, substance misuse. And when I talk about that, when I use that term, I mean drugs, basically. And the common drugs are, alcohol, marijuana, tobacco. Pills started to pop up a lot more frequently, probably within the last 10 to 15 years. But those are what's most common. And what I found is a lot of times, and most of us, maybe even those listening to this podcast, can know of those students or their peers that were experimenting or then also got caught up in some of those negative behaviors or actions, I should say. It's always been there.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons that I got into it was because I saw that there were a lot of youth who I would encounter that were using substances as an outlet because they didn't know how to deal with other things that were negatively impacting their life. May it be home life, may it be challenges with peers or finding that peer group, or may it be grades, academics, or not knowing how to deal with adversity or failure.
Yeah.
And so they, would try to use it as a coping mechanism. Even sometimes they would use it just to be a part of a certain peer group or the popular group or whatever. And so I wanted to, when we look at those situations for people, wanted to help young people understand that you don't have to use that to get to where you're trying to go.
Yeah.
And that has stayed constant just over time. Because, like I said, maybe a lot of people listening to this today can think about some of their peers who were doing the same thing for some of the same reasons. So it's a constant battle. But one of the things that I've realized the most, Claire, working with the youth, which is awesome, I've learned that I've had to work with the parents, and the parents are the ones that are a little bit more challenging. Yes, you parents are challenging, very challenging.
Yes.
Because you think it's not my kid. You think that my child will never do that. And then they end up reaching out to myself through my years and even at our organization when it's after the fact. And what I'm trying to do, and my goal is to go what we call upstream and say, here are some things that you can do. So perhaps you reduce the likelihood that you have to even deal with it at all. And so that's a challenge to get parents to understand and think about. But those that do, they get it. And I think they've seen the benefits of that. Yeah. And so that's what you see that's kind of common, is really just the common drugs that are out there. I mean, you can liken it to the drugs that are most available for those of us that are of age are the ones that are most challenging for our youth.
Yeah.
So alcohol is everywhere. Marijuana now being legal and recreationally in many states. Yeah. Tobacco is everywhere. Pills, given by pharmacists and things like that. I mean, pills are in everyone's home for good reasons a lot of times because they're prescribed, but youth can get their hands on it. So youth can get their hands on all of those three substances pretty easy.
Yeah. I like what you said. I know we talked about this before, that you right now are talking about the outcome, like what the symptom of what is the problem, when really it doesn't start there. So, and I can imagine I am not a parent, but I'm an aunt, and just being around people when it feels like maybe they could feel like you're attacking them, like it's my fault that they are like this. And so when you're not ready to face that yet, then you don't even think you're part of the problem.
Right. And I think parents forget, at least in my experience, that, they're role modeling all the time. And, even though they're living their life, their young person is picking up on things that they may not even recognize or be paying attention to. And so they're mirroring, that parent, and how that parent is, or any adult for that matter, that's in that child's life. Doesn't have to necessarily just be a parent, but how they're paying attention to how that person, handles adversity or stress, difficult times. They're paying attention to the words that are being used in their homes with their significant other or family members, or even how they talk with their peers. All that stuff has an impact on how that young person develops. And a lot of times when we think about violence, that's another piece that I work with is, I've worked with gangs through my career, and, even people that, we deal with bullying. And, I'm sure people here have heard the term, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And hurt people use substances, unfortunately, to mask so they don't have to feel what they're feeling. And so that also comes to dealing with your mental health, and how you talk to yourself and how you allow people to talk to you. That all has an impact on one's life. So being aware of those things is important. And what I found is that as our youth get, when you have a baby, a lot of parents tend to spend a lot of time, because they have to, with that baby. But it's really interesting, as time goes on, parents tend to disengage from their young person as that person gets older. And they feel that when they get to high school, it's kind of like, well, no, you're on your own. Do your thing. You're all right. But you know what? That's really when they need you the most, because that's when they're developmentally and physically changing kind of the most. And they can feel it. They can see
and
it,
the
meaning the youth
in high school.
and they're very concerned at that time. And that's when adults need to, and or a caring adult in that young person's life needs to be there.
Yeah. Like I'm imagining, just
We
even
can
as a
go all
leader,
day.
it's kind of the same. It's the same thing, right? I mean, someone who is brand new is like a baby, and we do pay attention to everything they do right at the beginning. And then it's kind of in that middle that we let go. And maybe we should be paying more attention.
Yeah, definitely. Just being present and not forgetting about them, or thinking, because, when you think that they don't want you around, that's actually when they do, but they don't know how to say that. They're in a different developmental stage in life where it seems like they don't want you. But here's the thing though, too, Claire, is they don't want you if you're going to be nagging at them or lecturing at them, or, talking down to them. No, one of the things that I like to share, and here's a piece that I like people to take away with is, Stephen Covey used to say, one of his habits was, think about keep the end in mind first. What is it that you're actually trying to accomplish? And I think parents forget what our goal is. And one of our goals, and major goals, is to help have resilient, positive, contributing young people to our community by the time they're 18. And unfortunately, at 18, our government and laws say that they're an adult at that time. And so that's what we got to get them prepared for. And in order to do that, then you have to start working on that. Basically, I like to say, like, when they start hitting 4th or 5th grade, what kind of adult do you want? So then what kind of experiences do you want to share with them? What kind of experiences are you going to let them learn from, and you not necessarily coddle them from, so that they can be that productive member of society in a good way?
So what are some things that you feel like as a parent, or even as a leader, that we should be teaching or focused in on, so that somebody that comes out at 18, or whatever the end is for your goal there, that they are ready to be on their own and being contributing? Like you're saying, you're right. They're going to be adults, and they're the ones that, they're the next generation of leaders.
Yeah. So I think, the other thing is, and you raise a good point, and we haven't touched on it yet, but I did say I'm the president and CEO of a nonprofit organization. I've been in a leadership role for 25 years. I've been a director of prevention and intervention services at a behavioral health organization. I'm a counselor, master's degree. When it comes to teams, I think one of the common thread that I've learned and studied through my years, from leadership to parenting, the thread that I see is communication. Not the communication from the standpoint of always just talking, but I think one of the bigger points is listening. Stephen Covey said, seek first to understand, then to be understood. And I think a lot of times, even when I do suicide prevention work, I'm a master trainer in applied suicide intervention skills training. It talks about the importance of listening. And you used a word earlier of me being non-judgmental. And those are things, when I think about a lot of the evidence-based programs that we run in our programs, from Strengthening Families program to Thrive to PATH, which is promoting alternative thinking strategies, all these Botvin's life skills and all these things. One of the common threads is the importance of listening. My dad once told me, Claire, when we were in high school, I didn't fully understand what he meant at the time, but as I went through my years, it started to just make total sense. And these researchers were talking about it. My dad said, hey, you have 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them proportionately. And I was like, what are they talking about? You know what it's all about. And I like to share that with people so much because you think about that even in relationships with your significant other or your friends or teachers or teachers to youth. Any, we always do so much talking,
Yeah.
but never enough listening to understand where that person's coming from. If we think about, not to go there and stay there, but I'll put this out there real quick, just politically.
Yeah.
No side is listening
To each other.
Everybody just wants to talk to get their point out and across. And that's where a lot of conflict comes in, is because nobody's taking the time to just shut up and listen. Or even if you think you're listening, right, when you're in an argument with somebody, it's all, well, I can't wait to, I know I got to get this point in on you. I can't wait to like one up you. No, I got to, right? Instead of just being like, okay, where's this person really coming from? So when we talk about leadership, and you were asking about that, is communication, listening to your team. I like to use a management style that I call participatory management, which means that everybody has a say, but not necessarily a vote.
Good.
And that's just coming from the framework in which, kind of my dad planted the seed, which is I need to listen to people around me. Because there's another gentleman too that I followed. He kind of mentioned this also recently, and I was like, dang, man, my dad was good. He's like, his name is Vusi. And he's an African-American entrepreneur. Excuse me, an African entrepreneur, a great businessman. And I follow him on Instagram. But he talks about, you as the leader, not necessarily having to be the smartest one in the room. And in fact, in fact, he feels that you shouldn't be the smartest one in the room if you're going to be a leader. You should have those people around you that have some expertise or skills and more knowledge in an area that you do not, so that you can grow. And so again, in order for that to happen, though, you as a leader need to make sure that you understand that you have to listen to those people then. And trust your gut also. I mean, have some a discernment, definitely. But you need to listen to people. We need to listen to our young people. They can sometimes, as a parent or a caring adult, I'll say this, and I think this is a hard transition for parents, is going from when they have a child who's an infant and can't speak or communicate to you, and you have to guess what they want all the time. Parents forget that this young person is learning and that they can then communicate and share with you some things that they're not liking, but parents don't like that.
No, of course.
Because that's feedback.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait a minute. For 6 years, 7 years, hold on. No. I told you what to do. You did it. I picked you up. I put you down. I changed your diapers. You did what I needed to do. But now this young person is 7, 8, 9. They're like, parents are like, wait a minute. Well, you got an opinion? You do what I say, right? So anyways, so I think the common thread for me is communication. Definitely.
I feel like this is an elementary question, but I know that there are people out there, there are leaders out there that don't know how to listen or to even tell that they're actually listening to understand versus what you were saying, like just waiting so you have something to say. Like, what should you be thinking about when you're listening to someone? Or, I guess that would be the question. How do you know that you're listening?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's listening and then there's deep listening, right? And one of the things that I learned, I've taken training on listening through a model called health realization. And one point that they make, and I think this people might be able to resonate with this example. You ever go to a movie and you're so engrossed in the movie that you're just following the story and the narrative, and you're feeling everything that character is feeling. When they're sad, you're sad. When they're happy, you're happy, and you're just going with it. That's what deep listening is. What deep listening is not is hearing what that person is saying and thinking about what your response is going to be as they're speaking. Because now you're not listening. You're processing what it is that you want to say to combat them or encourage them or whatever it may be, but you're not listening to them. So the thing would be to go on the journey with them. And, there's a lot of, basic listening skills where people talk about parroting, back what the person said, or you can also give nonverbal cues, right? Like you're doing right now, nodding your head, like, okay, I'm with you. You can do those things that helps them to understand that you're following them. And there's nothing wrong with that, but to really listen to somebody is to go on the journey with them and feel kind of what they're feeling to a certain degree. Then think about after they're done what it is you want to say, because then you process what you heard. Because when you're interrupting them in your mind of, well, they made a point right there, I got to make sure that I get get back at that point.
Yeah.
Well, then you're thinking about, I got to remember this point. I got to remember this point. I got to remember this point. And so I'm not listening to you as you continue to tell, because there's another point that I probably should be picking up on that's going to help me understand where you're really coming from, or what you really need from a support standpoint, or, how you can help this organization. And it takes practice.
Yeah.
It takes practice. And you have to unlearn some behaviors that we've learned. You have to unlearn some behaviors that we've learned, because that's not how society, it's not the way that we were trained, right? I mean, when you look at movies, you look at, just people in general, that's not how they talk. People, even you see it in big families all the time. I'm not sure if this happened, Claire, with your family. Even when we had the big family gatherings, a lot of times in family, people will overtalk each other.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Right. And it's like, nobody's listening. And it frustrates me to no end, Claire. Like when we have family gatherings, I'm like, you didn't let them get their point out. I don't know where they're coming from because you cut them off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So that's funny.
Yeah. So in January, I went to a leadership conference, and a bunch of us that are leaders, I don't know if you've ever taken Strengths Finders before.
Yes.
The Gallup Strengths Finders. But for a lot of us, empathy is like not in the top 5. It's more like the bottom 5. And so we had these discussions of like, it doesn't mean that you don't have empathy, but like, what are some things that you can do to get better at that? And what we've heard so many times that to me is my best visual that helps me to understand is to get in the well with them. So when you were saying go on the journey with them, that's what I think of as, if they're down at the bottom of the well, get in the well. Like, don't be at the top trying to get them up. Get in it. That's, to me, that's what they were saying is the difference, is that you're actually on the journey with them, not to stay there, but to be able to understand where they're coming from, like you're saying.
Yeah, that's another great example. No, that's awesome. Yeah, when you look at the going on the journey, it's not to stay with them, but it's to be on that part of it with them, and then disengage, so then that you can maybe be supportive, and then realize what it is that they may need, and then get out the way. But that's so cool. I like that. Yeah, but no, Gallup definitely strengths. Definitely we do that. True colors, all that good stuff.
Do you know what your top 5 are? Because now I want to know.
Of my Gallup, I don't. I could pull it up, but I think empathy is definitely. What's really interesting, and this also is I've seen mine kind of change. Even the disc, it kind of changes as I've grown, or for lack of a better word, climbed up the ladder for immature. But actually, I would say got more responsibilities. Sometimes the empathy has gotten lower because I have so many other things that I have to negotiate and deal with. But mine is probably higher than most because of where I come from, being a counselor, and I understand the importance of it. But sometimes I also think that it can get in the way of, it's interesting. I was talking to my wife about this just the other day. Is, I had to have a hard conversation with my team yesterday, and I kind of needed them to, get in step, get in line, and I need to let them know that, the way we're doing things is not going to work. And it bothered me a lot, Claire, in having to have that conversation, because I was always thinking about, okay, how are they feeling? What are they looking at? How are they perceiving this, that? And one of the things that I tend to do as a leader, and I learned this in one of my graduate classes, it was more about diversity, but I think it applies in life, which is anytime you're pointing your finger at somebody and saying you, or they, you got, one finger pointed at that individual, but you have 3 other fingers pointing back at you.
Yeah.
And right. And so I tend a lot of times to be thinking, okay, what can I be doing better? What am I not thinking of? But that takes a lot of emotional labor. And to be a leader, a lot of times you don't feel that you have time to do emotional labor. And thinking about how people feel is emotional labor. And it takes up a lot of space and a lot of time when you got stuff that needs to get done and you need people just to do it. Taking time to have sometimes that empathy is labor, additional labor that people may not want to take on, but I do. I find it important. I'm just trying to find the right balance in it all. But I love the analogy of the well also. Yeah, getting in the well to help them up or to support them, but don't necessarily need to stay in there. It's same as the journey, definitely.
What else are some things that you've learned over the years that you feel like have been critical to your success or even your growth?
Well, I think I touched on one of them, which is making sure that you have a diverse team, and diverse not only in ethnicity, race, but I think it's also knowledge in different areas. And I think this might be more true. I guess maybe another one, if people are familiar with true colors, you can use that as an example, right? You got your blues, you got your greens, you got your oranges, and all that. But having that type of diversity is helpful because people can then think of things in different ways that you don't think of them.
Mm-hmm.
That can be extremely helpful. So I think that's where I found, or people that have different style. Well, yeah, that's the same thing, styles, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm a big picture guy. I am not a very detailed person. So I used to dislike, Claire,
Mm.
so many people that were so detailed because it would frustrate me because I'm like, oh, I don't care about those details. Ugh. But I realized that those details are what made the made the product or the project better. You know,
Better.
yeah, right. Made it better is and then sometimes the person that's the naysayer in the room, you're like, dude, why are you always the naysayer? But they can also give you a perspective that you've not thought of.
Yeah.
So I think that's when I talk about diversity. I'm talking about styles. I'm talking about even people from different cultures and or race or ethnicity sometimes, because they can give you a different perspective, especially if you're dealing with the public
Yeah.
or community.
Yeah.
So that would be the other thing: communication and diversity of styles and ethnicity.
I think for me over the years, it's become easier and easier to surround myself with people that are way smarter, that have completely different opinions than I do, because I've gotten stronger in who I am. Like my confidence in myself, my thoughts, my beliefs, I already know like I can stand strong. So you can throw anything at me and it does not sway who I personally am or what I believe. So I'm open to hearing it. I don't know, does that ring true for you as well? Is your own
Yeah,
confidence in yourself and what you know?
yeah. I think what I've learned is that I I'm strong where I'm strong, and just because somebody else may be strong in another sense doesn't then make me weak, right? So I'm okay being where I'm at because I know that uh, I can shine in my lane, if you will, and there's a lot of lanes
Yeah.
for people to be in or run in, and this is mine, and this is yours, but I need you.
Yeah.
And because I'm in this lane doesn't mean that I'm less than. And so I think I learned that earlier on when I became a supervisor, very young. I became a supervisor, yeah, like right out of college. And I had an excellent mentor. I kind of learned that early on, that it doesn't lessen who I am, but it's a hard lesson to learn. I mean, as you're
It
growing, if
is.
you, like I said, Vusi said you shouldn't be the smartest one in the room, but a lot of times the way that we were raised through school, this is everybody. You got to
Yeah.
be top of your class. You got to be,
Yes. It's
and
cultural.
it's very cultural. Thank you. Very cultural, right?
Huh.
And I think that's a problem. That's the problem I think with a lot of academic folks sometimes is just because you're good. I'm gonna use doctors for an example because that's who my wife works with. Is you're good at being an MD, right? And maybe your specialty, but that doesn't mean you're a good business person.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you're a good entrepreneur. But the thing is that they've been sold and told because they made it through med school that they're great at everything.
Yeah.
That's not
Nope.
the case. And they bought it. They bought it. Oh
Right.
man, they're all in. They're all
Definitely
we
all in.
know everything.
But that is I think that's a scary place to be the person like, I have to know all the answers. If that's how I think, that I would wake up scared every day that there's something that I'm not going to know and someone's going to find out, versus just, right?
They're
You're going
gonna
to
find out.
make a mistake. They're going to find out that I had the wrong answer. So I think that makes it higher stress to me.
Yeah,
So, and I don't know.
I wouldn't want to be that way either. Yeah. But I think again, like you said, that comes with time
Yeah.
and understanding that it doesn't make you less than.
Right.
And but again, like you said, our culture in this nation is that we gotta be right and we gotta know it all. And I think that's what takes away
Yeah.
from the fabric of the community. That idea,
Yeah.
because I think if people really understood as leaders that it takes all of us, all different levels and expertise and skills, and that's how we thrive. That's how
Right.
organizations thrive and
Yes.
businesses together with all these different lanes.
Yeah. I mean, we would have been born all the same if there was only one if there was only one way to do it, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and so I mean, we go back to young people again. My observation with my nieces and nephews, have one left that's not in college, but when they all left for college that very first year, their freshman year, when they're 18, they have something in their mind that they feel like, I'm supposed to know everything. I can't ask for help. And if I ask for help, it says I'm not independent. And so they don't. And the next year, like, I was so homesick. I thought I was going to quit, but they didn't want to tell anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the reaching out for help.
Well, and that goes to the whole mental health part of what we do, right? And helping young people to understand that. And it's our society, again, goes back to our society, and we're trying to destigmatize a lot of the stuff around mental health, that, that asking for help is not weakness. And especially in men and men of color, this whole notion of, uh, asking for help or breaking down or feeling sad. is weak.
Yeah.
That's not the case at all. And again, in general, because of our culture in the United States of having to be dominant all the time, it seems like weakness is a bad thing. But we all go through it,
Yeah.
and we all need support. And there's nothing wrong for reaching out. And I tell the young people all the time, lean on me. When you're not strong, the
Yeah.
song.
Yeah. Yeah.
I normally sing it to them. I normally sing it, but that's because we all go through it, man.
Yeah.
We all go through it. I mean, that's the thing that bothers me a lot too, Claire. About our society, or I should say, our younger generation today, is social media, because that's what social media does too. It
Yeah.
shows you only the good parts.
Yeah.
They don't show you the 500 takes it took for that person
Yes.
to get that one awesome shot.
True.
It doesn't show you how many times that person, flipped up to get that shot. It doesn't talk to you about, that person who gets dressed up just to take that little picture,
Right.
of looking good, and then goes back and lays down in their bed.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I'm fine. Everything's
Right,
great.
yeah. I'm perfect. Everything's good.
Yeah.
And so that's a falsity that is running throughout our nation,
Yeah.
that we have to combat, because if not, we're going to have a lot more people depressed,
Yes.
and with thoughts of suicide, and then who actually suicide, because they feel like they're not living up to whatever it is that they think they need to be living up to, when they're fine. They're just
Right.
like everybody else.
Do you think it's worse now? Are mental health issues worse with different pressures now today? But I guess also there's less stigma about talking about mental health today than even maybe 10 years ago. Is that true?
It's getting
Yeah.
better. I think a lot of people are using their platforms to talk about it. So I think over the last 2 years, it's gotten a whole lot better. But we're not nearly where we need to be. There's still challenges within specific cultures, the African American culture, and the Hispanic Latinx culture. Because again, you're trying to destigmatize something that has been within those cultures for years. Those are two cultures I study the most. From TV and words that they use, and even just music, sometimes has played a role in that. And so it's getting better. I think the younger generation is going to be the one to have to carry that torch and continue to make it better and okay to talk about. And I think if they hold on to it, then it will, as long as they don't slip into where their parents were, or where we are, or our culture or generation is. But so it's getting a little bit better. But they still have to combat, as long as they recognize and try to remember that social media is not reality to a certain degree. You know what I mean? Again, there's so many fake profiles, so many. I mean, now with AI coming out, and
oh my gosh, it's going to get worse, isn't it?
Yeah.
With AI.
And so these images that sometimes people are seeing, you can't tell, real from fake. And, even some of the extremely negative of, the certain heads that they were able to put on bodies where, people are performing sexual acts, and it's not even that individual or famous person. So there's just so many things that can be done that I think they're going to have to be careful and help push back against that.
Yeah.
So that everybody's okay when they're not.
For our young people, or just someone who is even a new leader, or someone who is struggling right now with just insecurity or not sure where they belong, what would be something that you would tell them to kind of shore up who they are, or to take a step in the right direction?
That's a good one. What would I tell them? I think I would tell them is, don't be scared to get to know who you are. Because again, it goes back to the finger pointing that I was sharing earlier. You need to know who you are. And when I say that, it's not that you're going to know totally who you are, because we're always evolving and changing. But, we talked about skills tests or strengths tests.
Yeah.
Find out where you're strong. Find out what you really like to do. What aspects of the job do you really like to do? Because leadership is not for everybody. You may think you want to be a leader, but unless you really know who you are, it can be challenging.
Yeah. I think most people really have no idea how good they are. They have no idea what their actual strengths are, because they think, because it comes easy to them, that it's not something that is powerful. And so they don't own it.
Right. No, I'd agree. Yeah. And here's the thing that's crazy. And Claire, you remember, I mean, I did theater also, in musicals and stuff like that. And, I was one of the always lead roles, if you will, or co-leads or whatever. And so I get all the, the praise and the claps and all that. But you know what I began to understand was the importance of the people you didn't see, the people who pulled the curtain,
Yes.
the people who made the set, the people who were working the lights. They are the ones who made those shows awesome. But they're at the end of the credit or at the end of the shows. Nobody stays to see who they are.
Yeah.
But they're the ones who are actually the stars. And so when you look at it from a performance perspective, they could walk around thinking that, well, I'm insignificant. I'm not important.
Right.
That's not powerful, but that's where the power is.
Yeah. You're so
That's
right.
who makes it what it is. And we have so many people around us when you're in an organization or a business that they need to understand that that's why this thing moves. The janitor,
Yeah.
so important.
Yes.
So important, right? The IT department. So I mean nowadays people be like,
Yes.
yeah, nowadays people be like, oh, not a big deal, but they're huge. But the quality management department, the HR department, the people that the public facing doesn't see,
Right.
but they're the ones and that's where the strength lies. So I would agree with you.
Several years ago, it was like 2 Olympics ago, I finally realized why I love it so much. It's a place where people's dreams are coming to fruition on the world stage. And in 2008, I saw an interview with Michael Phelps' mom. And, they were saying like, how can you support such a champion, things like that. And she goes, look, at the beginning, I was just looking for an outlet for my son who had ADHD to like get rid of his energy. And then all those years that she worked as a principal to make sure he could swim. Without her, he's not Michael Phelps.
Right.
Right. All
There
the
we go.
things along the way that caused him to be able to perform was really because of his mom. I mean, and his coaches, and you're right, all the people around. But what you're right about is the only person that we really ever hear from is the one person on the podium, not everybody else.
Right. Yeah. And we forget about them and forget to give them the accolades and the hand claps.
Yeah.
And I think to your point, that's the other thing when we talk with youth or I talk to parents, it's about, making sure that there's another caring adult or adults in that child's life, because anybody that's made it never made it by themselves.
Yeah.
I'm sure the research would show that those youth who are successful and meaning productive member of society had some other people around them that made that work. And so people understanding that they have power in who they are and what they have. And I personally believe that everybody has a purpose.
Yes, me too.
That was placed within them, and they just got to figure out what it is. And sometimes they misguided or think it's this because it's not as popular,
right, or visible, or whatever, like you're saying.
Yeah, right. But it's just as valuable, man.
Yeah.
Like, so
we need
unless you understand that, then I don't think you can be as effective as a leader. And the other thing is, a leader doesn't have to have the title of leader or CEO or director or whatever it may be that we're known to give to people.
Right.
As I keep doing air quotes, leaders.
You're so right.
The air quote guy.
Air quote guy. Oh my gosh. Well,
so I agree with you.
Yeah. We have not talked about your family. We have to talk about your family. So tell us about your family.
We're not talking about them. They're okay. No, they're awesome. I have my son who's 23 and my daughter who's 15 now. My wife, 25 years. She's the associate dean for the College of Medicine at the University of Arizona. My son's doing amazing work similar to what I do. We're starting our own business for the family on basically mental health and inspiring young people and families. My daughter is in cheer and a freshman now, and so she's on a cheer team, varsity cheer, and just doing really well. So everybody's doing their thing, positive. We go through some of the challenges that most families go through with just trying to figure out what's the best route for your young person in their life, and what do they want to engage in, and then it changes, and then you're frustrated. I mean, we go through all that. Got them in a lot of different activities, and you're like, dang it, man.
Yeah.
but yeah, they're golden, and my wife and I practice the things that I've learned through the years to use with our kids, and it works. My son's a
Yeah.
productive member of society, and my daughter's well balanced at this time. she's in that she's in that
At
developmental
this time.
stage. Yeah, she's in that developmental stage where we'll
Yes.
see if we can make it through the next
Yes.
3-4
Yeah.
years. But
Well, and your son is following in your footsteps, and I really feel like that speaks volumes for, it's like it's almost like the evidence, not that it's permanent necessarily, but you can see the steps he's taken and where his heart is. That must also be rewarding in that way.
yeah, well, it really is rewarding. I'm proud of him, proud of my daughter, proud of what we've done. And to be honest, that's something that I feel that it was again. I feel people have a purpose. I believe in God. I believe that was what was placed within his heart, and so it just happens to align with with me at this point in time. But yeah, definitely proud of him. And if it's truly what God has placed in his heart and his spirit, then he'll be all right. And if it's not, he'll definitely learn from this and then figure out what God has, in store for him. But yeah, definitely, yeah, it's weird in one regard though too,
Yeah.
because it's not a, I mean, it's not a glorious job in the sense of, again, you get a lot of accolades and reports written about you, and it's not a money making industry where you're going to be a millionaire. I mean, you potentially could, if God wants it to be that way, I think. But I think it's really one of those. Yeah, it's just really one of those jobs where it's about people. It's about community. I mean, we're almost like teachers to a certain degree, where undervalued.
Yes.
And
and you're also you're working with the people who have an issue, so of some kind. So just by nature of what you're doing, it's not always positive. I'm assuming you're trying to find what can I do to help. So
right. Well, and
you
that's
have to
with
want
all
to do
youth.
it.
Yeah, and that's with all youth, right? And so what we try to do is be that other caring adult in their life for even just that moment to touch them, and maybe even if it's a word of encouragement that maybe they're not hearing at home, or that skill that maybe they didn't know about or learn, or that opportunity that maybe they weren't able to get. Because when you and I were growing up, we got so many different opportunities. It was crazy to experience different things, to see what we liked and what we didn't like. Even those in middle class, the air quote guy again, air quote guy, middle class. There's some experiences they didn't have. I mean, and don't get. There's some people that don't travel outside of their state.
Yes.
You and I have been able to travel outside the country and then visit multiple states when we were younger.
Yeah.
And get to see different parts of the US and how it moves and how they think in different parts of the country and then the world. And so that's who we're trying to help, is just people in general. And then, yes, we do also definitely deal with those that are at higher risk. But to me, all youth are at hope.
Yes. I love that.
Because they're youth.
Yes.
And they're fragile and they're developing, and their brain's not fully developed till they're 23 to 25. And so all of them have the opportunity to go the wrong way.
Yeah.
And we need some guardrails, not just their parents, but some other adults, caring adults in their lives to help them out. And I'm sure if I were to ask you who those were for you, you'd be able to identify them.
Oh,
but there's some young people that can't identify anybody at all. And that's where it's at.
Yeah, I think that we underestimate the power of even one interaction with someone. I mean, I'm sure if I think about it, just even from last week, something that someone said to me, something that someone, opened a door for me when I was having a moment, that will stay with you. You may not always remember the people, but you always remember the feeling, or it just inspires you for hope for just that moment that gets you to the next moment sometimes.
Agreed.
It's powerful.
Agreed. It really is. It really is.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask you some of these questions real quick, just to know how you stay encouraged yourself, but a couple books that maybe have been game changers for you.
Yeah, so I was gonna look that up real quick because I forget the name of it. But people on here know this. But one of the books was The Four Agreements.
Oh, that is so good. Yes.
Miguel Ruiz. Yeah, I think it's Miguel Ruiz.
I'll look it up and we'll
if I said it wrong, people correct me. But I read that almost every couple of years. And I just read it last year again, just to remind myself. And it just reminds me how to stay balanced and in the moment. And to also not take things so personally. And That has helped me a lot. I think the other book that was a game changer, I don't know if it was a game changer, but it was inspiring, was Barack Obama's book. Not his wife's, but his actual book. It
Uh-huh.
was pretty big. I was like, whew, am I gonna make it through this? But
Yeah.
yeah, I read that one. And then another one, um, I think was, it's not a popular one, but it's one that, oh man, I think we believe it was called Jesus as Supervisor. And
Jesus
how he,
CEO.
Jesus CEO, Jesus CEO. Yeah, yeah, yes, 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 yes,
Okay.
yes. Did you read that
Yeah, yeah,
one?
yeah. Yeah.
Did
Yes,
you read
I read
that?
that one. I have it. Yes,
What?
it's here somewhere.
Oh
Oh yeah.
yes, Jesus.
I got. Oh wait, no, this one's Jesus Life Coach, but I also have Jesus CEO somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the red book. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
awesome for me because, it deals with him and the 12 disciples and how he, kind of worked with them. And
Yeah.
so that was a game changer for me because when I first started out, what was really interesting too, I know we're wrapping up here, but what was really interesting to me is when I got the opportunity to be a supervisor when I was young, 20, 25, 26, nobody gave me any coaching or schooling so
Right.
I just began to read and you know who I respected and admired was Jesus.
Mm.
And so I was like, man, I wonder if there's anything. And then Jesus as CEO. It was weird. I was at Waffle House reading it one day, and the
Yeah.
the cooks were like, "What are you reading?" I'm like, Jesus as CEO. They're like, "Huh, that's interesting."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it really is. You
That's a
should
good
read the
one.
book. Yeah, it's really good. So that's another one. So yeah, Four Agreements, Barack Obama's book, and then Jesus as
Jesus
CEO.
CEO. I love it. That is such a good point that we really do not teach people how to lead
Mm,
in organizations or in companies or corporate, right?
nope.
You have to seek it out. And so I mean, I think that's why we make so many mistakes as leaders is because we kind of just trial and error it. So yeah, I mean, today there's so many books out there. There's so many resources that if you want to become a better leader, it's acting like podcasts like this. This is our intention to
Yes,
help teach that.
exactly.
So what about podcasts? Do you listen to podcasts?
I do, but none related to those are more of my down time. But what's really interesting? What I tend to do though is, a lot of people will be like, I don't. A lot of people probably shouldn't go and listen to these, but I like R&B and hip
Uh-huh.
hop. But there's one called Drunk Champs, um, and it's they interview artists from like the 80s and 90s that were really popular, and you get to
Huh.
hear the backstories on a lot of things that we never knew as
Sure.
listeners. Um, but there's so much knowledge in what they share from a business aspect
Yeah.
that I see can help me to a certain degree. Because what I try to do is I try to find businesses that are different than mine because I'm a nonprofit. A lot
Yeah.
of times people feel that a nonprofit needs to function in a certain way. And some books that I read
Mm.
said that we should actually function as a for-profit, meaning
Mm.
our mentality and the way that we drive and put systems in place, and we're not just this small with our hand out, can't build anything
Yeah. Mm.
robust and powerful. And again, now when I say non, I mean small nonprofits.
Yeah.
We get this mentality. I'm not talking about the ones that are like breast
Massive.
cancer awareness or American Heart
Right. Right.
Association or anything like that. I'm talking about the smaller ones. Um, so that's a part of the reason I listen to some of those because there's knowledge and they're older now and
Yeah.
they've learned so much. Another one is called R&B Money. It's with Tank and
Yeah.
Jay Valentine. They bring talk about a podcast that brings on people who don't get the spotlight is R&B Money. So they sometimes bring on some major artists, but they bring on the writers and the
Oh,
producers of the songs for the people that so you get to hear. And again, it's not gossip. They're just talking about the business
yeah.
of how hard it was to put this rhythm with that rhyme or these words, or the how it, what it takes to get paid, and how they make their money from that. But these are all the people that are behind the scenes. So much so, it's crazy, Claire, that when I listen to a lot of them, excuse me, when I listen to a lot of them, I never knew that the name of the person that produced the song that Taylor Swift, what I'm saying, gets all the
Yeah.
credit for,
Of
or
course.
people don't know that Bruno Mars, while he's phenomenal as an entertainer, he's an amazing songwriter and producer. Like
Wow.
that's how he makes his money. That's where the money is. So R&B money is another one.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, it's the same as what you were saying earlier, right? That is where your heart is. It's always you're looking for the overlooked. Do you realize that, right? You do that.
Yeah, that's interesting. No, I never
You,
thought about it, but yeah, that is true.
you want to make sure people are seen, and that is the most valuable thing. I mean, all of us as humans, we want to know that we matter and that we're loved.
Yes. And it's really interesting. And you might be going to this on the next question, so forgive me if I,
No, go.
but a saying
Yes.
that sticks with me. And actually, I was wondering, there's two, but one, there was a gentleman at a library. He was a storyteller, and he would read to the youth, and he played like this little, wasn't a piccolo. This is this weird little round thing, and he was he was Brazilian, and he'd blown it in, and then he'd tell stories, and he told me one time, he's like, Jamal, everybody has a story, and it deserves to be heard.
Yes.
And I was like, wow. He's like,
That's so
everyone
good.
has a story and it deserves to be heard. And he's like, this library should be filled with books of people's stories because it deserves to be heard. And so that's when I work with youth, try to remember when we talk about at Hope Youth, it's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you, because they have a story and it deserves to be told
Yes.
and heard.
Love that. Okay. Favorite quotes. That was that one. Did you have another one?
Oh yeah, another one of my favorite ones.
That's
If you think you can or cannot, you are right. And I forget.
correct.
Sometimes I tried to find out
So true.
who said that, but it's like an
Yeah.
unknown author. Every time I've always tried to find it, I'm not sure who they credit
Yeah.
it to. So
I
I don't know
mean,
who to give
Mary
credit
Kay
to.
was one of the first people that said it, but I
Okay.
think there's another one as well. Yeah. There's somebody else
Yeah.
besides Mary Kay. I don't know who actually was first.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
just want to make sure people know I'm not trying to take credit for it. It's somebody else. I just
Yeah.
heard it
Yeah.
and I've used it for like the last 30 years. So
It stuck with you. I love it. What does progress look like for you personally this year?
Oh man, what's really interesting? This is a whole nother podcast. Is I'm really in a place right now where I'm in my 5th year of this nonprofit organization, and a lot of our grants are sunsetting, and so I got to get over this hurdle or hill of how do I get the next round of funding to sustain. Because
Wow.
I'm 95% grant funded, and our grants, the majority of them are 2 to 3 years, and they all happen to sunset this year. So me is writing grants for my organization to secure some more funding for the next 2 to 3 years, and then also working on some fundraising elements but it won't, in my experience, at least from what I've been seeing, it won't help me get where I need to be fundraising. But that's another place I'm exploring, if you will. Personally, I think it's weathering the storm and remaining positive and holding on to who I am through this process and not getting discouraged and encouraging myself and maintaining balance and maintaining positivity and not allowing negativity to slip into my thoughts so that it doesn't impact, the negativity doesn't impact my social and family. So that's a challenge that I know that I want to work on as I experience and go through this.
Yeah. Your entire career, that has been something you have to think about over and over and over again, is the funding every single time. And that requires a lot of trust, just faith that it's going to come, because it's what the work you're doing is important. So, which is not faith doing nothing, it's faith in action. Right?
That is true. That is very true.
Awesome. Well, I will be praying for you for sure on that, and anything I can do to help you, let me know, please.
No, definitely.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah. Okay, couple more quick questions. What is one quality that you love about yourself?
Ooh, yeah. I never toot my own horn. So, what's one quality? I think I love my ability to listen. I love it, but then sometimes I dislike it because I'm one of those type of guys that are like at a restaurant or a bar or whatever, and then people want to come and tell me their story. I don't know if I have written on here, tell me your story, even though I'm saying like everybody has a story and it deserves to be heard. But sometimes like I want to be off.
Yep. Oh,
but it happens to me all the time.
I
was
believe
like,
it. I
"Dang
believe
it,
it.
man."
And I don't think and I don't think you necessarily attract drama. I don't think it's the drama that you
Mm-mm.
attract. It
No,
literally
it's
is
not.
just
It's
people
not.
that want to be heard, and they know. They know.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. When I say that, it's never drama. It's just they want to tell me their story. And it doesn't
Yeah.
bother me, but just sometimes because so here's the interesting thing, Claire. I remember I was talking to one of my friends about this, is that the reason that it can sometimes, I had to learn this, is that I can take on people's stories and what they're feeling because I'm going on the journey, and that can be heavy.
Yeah.
And so I do put up it's not a wall, but it's a protector, like try not to pick up their feelings and carry that with me. But sometimes some of the stories that I hear are so impactful of what that person has gone through that it's sometimes hard to shake it off like just like that.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes I get like a little nervous when people want to tell me their stories and I'm trying to be out and just relax.
Yes.
Because I'll feel for them, you know what I mean? It's like, and not that I want to take them home or anything like that, but that story will stick with me. And it's like, dang, man, why is life so messed up? Or why did that person go through that? Or man, God, man,
Yeah.
like, I'm trying to have fun. I'm not trying to, right?
Yes. I mean, that is the downside of empathy. Yeah.
And so I love it. But at the same time, I'm like, dang it, sometimes I wish I could just hide from it, if you will, or whatever, and say, I'm off.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I can do this all day.
Right now.
You're right.
I love it.
But I love y'all. I love you. Call me anytime. Don't feel that you're ever bothering me. I don't want to put that out there.
Exactly. What can we do to amplify your voice, or what can we do to be part of the solution for what you do? We're all around people all the time.
Yeah, I would recommend to people communicate, be a good listener, talk with your children early and often, because if you don't, something is. And what that something is today is called social media. They're not getting the right information through social media, and they're getting that information, man, billions of impressions within 5 minutes because they're doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're taking that all in. Their brain is taking that all in. So what is it that they're taking in? You need to, as an adult, be talking more and often and earlier so that when they see those images or hear those things, or they may have some discernment and some questions where they can come and talk to you. So that's why communication is important, so that they can get clarification on what does that mean? Is this real? You know, whatever it may be. And most of all, what I'm talking about is for young people is, you know, their self-esteem, their mental health, because they're taking in a lot of things. Self-esteem as far as even, you know, the images of women and how they look and look perfect. And then there's airbrushing and, you know, texturing and filters. And then people don't feel like they're beautiful enough. And that messes with young people's heads. So they need to hear that from you, that they're good enough, they're beautiful enough, they're strong enough. And that's for guys and girls. Don't think that boys don't need to hear that. They need to hear that they're good enough, they're strong enough, they're beautiful enough. So that's what I would say to help me in my goal and my mission to reduce substance use and misuse and to promote mental health and wellness, and raise the next leaders of our generation, is to communicate more and let them know that they're all right.
I love that. Yes. We want to raise a mentally healthy and emotionally stable generation of leaders.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on with me, Jamal. This was so much fun. We have to do it again sometime.
Definitely. I'm down. I'm down whenever you're ready.
And if you're tuning in with us today, just remember that no matter where you are in your journey, as Jamal said, you are already enough. There's more to you than the hats that you wear. There's more in you than you can possibly imagine. And there's more for you just waiting out there for you to receive. So have the courage to take the first step and amplify your life, one day at a time, one thought at a time.
So true.
Okay.
Thanks, Claire.